Hey, so this is Mark from graduatejobtips.com, and I'm here with a very special friend, Howard Kingston, digital marketing guru, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about building a personal brand online and the importance of doing that in today's age. So thanks for inviting me up here. We just
It's a pleasure.
on the Cobras.
Always a
Cheers.
pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Um, so to start off with, in this day and age, I think obviously having an online presence is really imperative. You know, you speak to most people, and the first thing they do after meeting with you is they'll often go home and Google you to see what you're about. So, what did you do when you were starting out and you wanted to establish a presence online? What were the first things that you decided to do?
What did I do first? So I did what everyone did. It initially, I set up like a LinkedIn profile, and that probably had about 10 people linked to, and I had Twitter account, and I had like 10, 15 friends on it, and my Facebook account, and it didn't do anything for me. So so like at that point I'd done it, and it wasn't really doing anything. It took up a little bit of my time, didn't see any value in it, and then I decided to take things a little bit more seriously, and I set up a blog, and I put a bit more effort into my LinkedIn profile, and I spent a lot of time on Twitter. And now, like, just the difference when you do it right, like this, the differences you see are huge. Yeah, so yeah, that's the
Okay.
difference. When you know what to do, the results you can get are really, really good.
Right. And for like a prospective graduate, I'd say LinkedIn would certainly be a one to focus on, in conjunction with maybe Twitter. Facebook probably not so much. It's a bit more, a bit more social and less professional. But let's look at LinkedIn. Is there anything a graduate should look out for when, like, they're setting up a profile? What are the key things you should be doing when you're setting up your profile?
Okay, so yeah, like I was mentioning, we were kind of chatting earlier, and like I get probably two cold contacts every week, like offering me jobs now through LinkedIn, and that's been going on for for a bit of a while now, and that's not through luck, and it's not necessarily because I have more experience than everybody else. It's just because I know how LinkedIn works, and I have optimized my profile in such a way that people who are looking for certain types of people, I do well, and when they search for certain types of people, I come up near the top of it. And that's knowing how you want to position yourself. So if you want to be a digital marketing manager, you want to make sure that you have digital marketing written many times in your site. The title is really important. Your job history, you want to make sure you have digital marketing in there in your previous roles. Call yourself digital marketing manager. All these things are really important, and there's sections called keywords that we actually just put in keywords based on your skills, and if you have these things and people go on and search for them, you'll come up on top. As simple as that. I can go into more detail on LinkedIn, but I don't know how much kind of detail you're looking for.
That's enough. I think that's actually very interesting. And then moving on to like Twitter. Twitter's obviously a good, more dynamic platform where you can maybe put out your thoughts, and supposedly those thoughts can convey your interests and your likes or maybe dislikes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, how careful should a graduate be when setting up a Twitter profile if they think that it's going to be searched by an employer? I mean, should you be yourself, or should you sort of be tweeting, thinking or bearing in mind who's going to be searching my Twitter profile and my tweets?
So, like, if you have a Twitter profile under your name, people will see it, right? So you just have to, I suppose, bear in mind. Like, I have a friend who owns a tourism business, and he is mad into, like, Free Palestine, okay? And he tweets about that all the time, and on his profile there's links back to his business website. Like, that's a terrible idea, because people are going to see that and it's just going to turn them off, like, isn't it? So people are going to see it, so it's all about, I suppose, it's like
it's a fine balance, isn't it, between impartiality and putting across an opinion.
I even think you should step back from it and say, right, where do I want to be and where do I want to position myself? And everything, all those ducks, everything you do then has to point towards that, how you position yourself. So like all the LinkedIn and the Twitters and all these things are all just like really tactical things. You want to find out what's your overall strategy, where you want to be in 3 years, and everything else has to funnel in towards that, and there can't be anything incongruent to that. Everything should be everything should be pointing. If you have a blog, Twitter, everything, you should be tweeting about it, because ultimately you want to be like a thought leader in that area, and that's where people will start contacting you instead of you contacting them.
Okay. Now you mentioned blog. That's really the third thing I wanted to speak about when building a personal brand online. That's something that, thanks to you, I got involved in just under a year ago.
And doing it awesomely as well. He's rocking it.
Thanks. And enjoying it as well. Thoroughly enjoying it.
Good stuff.
And these days, I think for a lot of people, they think of a blog perhaps as just being a way to, once again, put down your thoughts. But blogs are more than that. I think they're, as you've shown me, a blog can look like a website and can be viewed as a website.
Mm-hmm.
With the plugins that we have, the platforms we have to build on, I mean, the world is your oyster when it comes to building a blog.
Big time.
But once again, getting back to graduates who are trying to promote themselves and build an online brand, what's your advice when it comes to building a blog? I mean,
okay, so again, without going, there's loads, like, there's different types of blogs you can set up. Tumblr is really hot at the moment, WordPress is brilliant. But even like aside from that, before you do any of that kind of stuff, you want to find out, just like I said with Twitter and LinkedIn, you want to find out where you want to be in kind of 5 years, and decide what area you want to be an expert in, and what is your dream job. Think of what is your dream job, where you'd like to work towards, and just position yourself as a kind of an expert in that area, and then just set up a blog. It's pretty trivial. I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's loads of stuff on the web how to do that, and just set up a blog and start talking about the stuff you're learning. Because even though, like, the biggest thing when you start blogging is you kind of think, oh, but I don't know as much as the other people out there. But guaranteed, you know more. Like, if you're like 20 and you're just about to finish college, there's people who are just about to start college that don't know as much as you, and they're the people who would love to learn from you, because they relate to what you've just gone through. So so just write about it.
I think that's great advice. In fact, that was one of my sort of main apprehensions when starting my first blog, was that, am I qualified to speak about the subject? And I felt that I wasn't. I felt I didn't know enough. But as you say, there's different tranches of knowledge.
Totally.
And there's a market for each tranche. And if you're at the bottom tranche, that's fine, as long as there's a market for that tranche. So it doesn't really matter where you're at. Just go for it.
And I think as long as you don't like pretend to be this like guru of gurus, because like people will see through that. Just be honest what you know and what you don't know, and the stuff that you have learned about. And like maybe you're in college and you've just learned about a certain technique or something, just talk about it.
Okay. And then in terms of like creating a network where all these different platforms link together, I mean, what can you do to make them link to each other so that it all looks like it's one big pie? I mean, for instance, LinkedIn, I know that you can plug in your blog, can't you? Just tell us a little bit about how you would approach that if you had a LinkedIn profile, a nice blog, and a Twitter account.
Okay, so like again, this is kind of, so quite tactically, I suppose you can. It's just quite a trivial thing to do. Once you've set up your WordPress website, you want all your different assets that you have on the web to all be linked in together. So if someone follows you on Twitter, they can then follow you on LinkedIn. And if someone reads your blog, you want them to follow them on follow you on Twitter. So whenever you tweet out a new blog post, they'll see that and they'll come back to your blog. And just, it's like the more people see you, the more they'll gain trust you, and they'll I suppose they'll just form more of a relationship with you online. And going back to the fact of getting getting a job, I suppose the big thing with like blogs, I always think is, like, I always kind of look at it, if you're going for, just say you have created this dream job of yours, and like if you're going, it's just you and this one other person, right? Both of you are the last two candidates for this great job that you're wanting to get, and the first person has gone to, say, Harvard University, right? Okay, so they've gone to Harvard and you haven't. Like, chances are, like, you would think they're the favorite for that job. But let's go back to that again, and this time the person has gone to Harvard who you're competing against, but you got a blog which, like, you're talking about everything to do with the field of that job you're going for, and it's quite apparent that you're really passionate about it, and you're tweeting about it all the time, and you've got a good few followers on Twitter, and people see you as a bit of an expert in that space. I say you're the favourite over the person who has the Harvard degree now. So it just makes it the biggest, just levels the playing field and gives you such an advantage if you're doing it, because not many people are doing it. That's a bit off topic.
But I think that's a good point. I mean, I think friends that I've spoken to have done recruiting in the past, they tell me, obviously, if they find a blog that's linked to a candidate, that adds a hell of a lot of value to that candidate.
Because but like they're proactive, they're passionate.
That's right.
Like, it doesn't need to be like the most, like, okay, it's good if it's good content, and it will be good content. It doesn't need to be like groundbreaking stuff. It just shows that you're proactive.
It shows they have a vested interest in the subject, and essentially they're not bullshitting.
Of course.
Because interviews are, to a large degree, contrived, and the interviewee will bullshit.
Oh, totally.
But a blog is a way to validate the potential BS and say, hang on a sec, this interviewee was actually talking the truth.
Yeah, like a CV, like everyone knows. Like, there's stats out there. You know this more than I do. There's stats out there of, like, you know, of the percentage of people that lie on their CVs. Like, I think it's pretty high.
Yeah.
But, like, there's no lying when it comes to, like, whether you're active on social media. Like, it's all there to be seen. And especially, geez, if you're going for any kind of a job in the digital space, it's like instantly puts you ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, okay, good. One other thing I've just noticed is when I Google a lot of people, myself included, as you would do.
Do you Google yourself, dude?
Well, just to make sure that everything's...
Daily? More than daily? More than daily?
Not more than daily. Come on. I noticed that LinkedIn profiles always come up as number one. So LinkedIn is SEO'd very well.
Yes.
Optimized very well. Yes. So therefore, that would suggest that we all need to either place a lot of emphasis on how we lay out our LinkedIn profile or not be on LinkedIn to begin with. But is there any way you can manipulate that? I mean, or is that very much in the power or in the hands of LinkedIn when it comes to you being optimized at number one when you Google yourself or when somebody else Googles you?
You know, all I know is when you can heavily optimize your LinkedIn profile for when people are searching within LinkedIn, right?
Okay.
And that is just like what I mentioned at the start. You know, if you have relevant, if you know, you want to know what you want to go for, and you want to pull out what you think people will be searching for. Like, for me, I work in marketing, so it's digital marketing, you know, online marketing, stuff like that. That's what people search for in LinkedIn. So you want to find out what those keywords are for your role and make sure it's in your LinkedIn profile loads. Like, probably too many times. When you're talking about your experience, put in that keyword in multiple times and you'll come up higher. It'll come up near the top in the LinkedIn profile, and you can see your stats, and you'll see before you've done it, there'll be like hardly any hits, and then after you've done it, you'll see like your stats will go up. If you have it well optimized on LinkedIn, you, like, honestly, that's all you need to do, because people don't like a recruiter doesn't go onto Google to search for somebody. Like, oh, I'm looking for somebody.
Yeah.
Like an online marketer, or say a financial advisor. They don't go onto Google, but they do go onto LinkedIn to search for those types of people.
I think that what we're faced with now is a situation whereby an individual is going to be creating essentially an online CV, but not just what we could call an online CV, but a diverse online CV, which encompasses a multitude of different platforms.
Yeah.
What we've spoken about today, LinkedIn, Twitter, a blog. There's a few other little ancillary platforms that I've come into contact with, and I know you use as well. What are your thoughts on them? For example, Zerply and About.me. You're on Zerply, I know you are.
What is Zerply?
Zerply is like a platform which is just like an online CV platform, basically.
Okay.
So you put your name on there, you put what you do, maybe a photograph of yourself, and you can customize a nice little background.
Oh, okay.
So when somebody Googles you, that's something that can come up.
Oh,
and
good.
it's another link maybe to your site, to your Twitter account.
Yeah.
It all just creates a broader network.
Totally,
So,
totally.
Anything against those?
What was the other one? About.me?
About.me, yeah.
Yeah, there are other ones like that. There are quite a few. I think they have value. So, like, if you're really looking to, get hired or looking for a job at the time, I'd maybe spend it's no harm spending an hour or two putting on these sites. Like, they can take up quite a lot of your times. Me personally, even though I have signed up for these, I can't even remember it, for whatever reason I signed up for them. But I would say probably I would nearly recommend just picking 1, 2 or 3 sites like LinkedIn, Twitter and a blog, and just focusing on them.
And then I suppose lastly, let me put this scenario to you. 5 years down the line, a person which has a good blog, a good LinkedIn profile, Twitter account, and let's say a CV in a Word document. Is a recruiter in 5 years' time going to still ask them to email through that CV, or will they ask them for either a blog URL or just Google them? Do you think they're still going to ask for that paper CV? That's my question.
In 5 years? Oh, dude. Possibly for some really old school
Okay,
roles.
so sector dependent, really.
Probably sector dependent. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, I think in some sectors, like, CVs are almost becoming redundant already. It's a good question, and I don't really know the answer, to be honest. All I know is that you can, like, there's one way that you can cut through the pile of paper CDs on someone's desk, and that's having all your online stuff. I just know because, like, it's just, I've seen it happen so many times. People who are doing that, they just cut through all the noise of CVs. So yeah, if you want to be part of the sheep, like, you can continue doing your CVs, but if you want to do something a little bit better, which like includes having the LinkedIn's and a really good thing on LinkedIn, you know the recommendations are good on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've actually given you one.
Yeah.
That does help.
You know, a great way to get recommendations, right? This is right.
Off a free beer.
My tip, right? For recommendations, you don't ask people for recommendations, right?
Yeah.
The best way to get recommendations is, right, make a list of all your friends or any people you know. You recommend them, right?
I see. And then they reciprocate.
It pops up when they like it. They feel good about you. It pops up. Would you like to recommend that person back? Yeah. And I have done that. And like 75% of the time, people will recommend you back.
Yeah.
And
playing on human emotions.
It's a classic one. It's a classic reciprocation thing.
I like it.
It's so much nicer than asking people for recommendation. You just recommend them. They go, oh yeah, so cool, and I'll recommend him back. And then an employer comes onto your LinkedIn profile and sees like 20 recommendations. Like it only does a good thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, that's a good tip. Right. Well, I think that'll wrap things up. I mean, we've covered everything there. Howard, as I've said to you before, is a digital marketing guru. That's what he does for a job. He's done that for many years. For those of you out there who either have a Twitter profile or are going to get one going now after this interview I've done, this guy knows how to get a lot of followers quite fast. And trust me, if you're not proactive about this, it will take you a long time to get a lot of followers. So what's the best way to get in contact with you? Probably through Twitter for now, yeah?
Well, yeah, totally go to my blog, like startupremarkable.com. I blog there a lot when when my site's not hacked. It does get hacked.
I wasn't sure if I should mention it.
It's hacked at the moment, but hopefully by the time you're watching this, I'll have hacked it.
Yeah.
And I'm on Twitter at HowardVK.
HowardVK. And what he will be doing, and we spoke about this earlier today, is he's going to be putting together a webinar which will actually tell you how to get, I think, 1,000 followers on Twitter.
Yeah.
How to get, in what time frame?
I could guarantee you to get it within a month.
Within a month. So, definitely check him out for just for that. I'd say that's definitely worthwhile. Definitely worthwhile. Thanks again, mate. All good.
Anytime.
Next time.
Anytime.